Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good. I'm good. And my friend, how's everyone doing?
Doing really well. All right, let me check our technology here. Okay, we are recording. Let's check the streaming. We are streaming in all of the universes of the Birdie Man multiverse. And then let me spotlight you. Okay, great. I think that's all my tech stuff. Perfect. Okay, so Jim Kwik is a renowned brain coach who can help you unleash your mental superpowers to supercharge your memory, focus, speed. He is the host of the top educational podcast, Kwik Brain, and author of the recent New York Times best-selling book, Limitless. Upgrade your brain, learn anything faster, and unlock your exceptional life. Jim is a world-renowned accelerated learning expert, and so excited to have you here, Jim.
It's good to be here, Doc. Thanks for everyone who's joining us for this brain power upgrade. And let's jump right into it. It's really an honor and a privilege to be with you in this experience, in this multiverse, or this mystic verse, if you will, in this virtual playa. And my last burn was in 2017, and this is quite an experience, right? It's in the theme of infinite realities and infinite alternate selves. It's wonderful to be here in this virtual reality. So what I'm going to do in this session is share with you practical, proven ways in the theme of accelerated learning and mental models to be able to be at your best cognitive self. And I'm really excited about sharing some of this research, and it's out of a book that I came out with this this time is so interesting nowadays, this year, called Limitless. And it's all about, not about being perfect, but Limitless is about really advancing and progressing beyond what you currently believe is possible. And for me, that's really what this is all about. And so I'm going to jump right into this. I encourage you to take some notes, and let's do this. So let's talk about this experience that we're having together in this multiverse, or in this mystic verse, right? We're talking about limitless realities. We're talking about limitless alternative selves, if you will. And I believe the limitless resource that we have on planet Earth is the human mind, the human spirit. There's no limit to your creativity. There is no limit to human imagination. There is no limit to our ability to solve problems. There's no limit to our ability to create. There's no limit to our ability to come together. And I think that's exactly what we're demonstrating right now. So in the themes of radical contribution and radical collaboration and radical compassion, self-expression, evolution, and inclusion, I'm going to share with you how to be able to upgrade, the limitless resource we have, which is human potential, so that you could go out there and be amazing on your quest. I think we're all on this adventure to be able to realize, reveal, express our fullest being, our fullest potential. And so I'm going to share with you here, and then we'll go into Q&A and get really micro. I'm going to share with you a macro model that I call the Limitless model, which is a framework for not only accelerated learning, be able to focus, be able to read faster, be able to improve your memory, learn new skills, but also it's a framework for unlocking human potential. And after that, I'll go into Q&A, and then we can answer questions specific towards you. You want to be able to read faster. You want to be able to learn languages. You want to learn a new skill. You want to be able to remember people's names. All of that we will do. And that's the promise of this session. And I want you to feel like this session alone made such a difference in your life that it put you on a different track or a trajectory. And now we live in interesting times. And one of the questions I get, since my book is called Limitless, is how do you become limitless in a limited world? How do you become limitless in a limited world? And the metaphor that I use here about transformation is this symbol of a butterfly, right? A butterfly is a profound symbol for transformation. And right now, we might be feeling we're going through a transformation. You might be feeling that you're a caterpillar in a cocoon, and you might even be feeling like you're in a cocoon, right? You're physically distancing yourself. You might be alone with your thoughts or your fears, your doubts. You might be feeling alone. And part of the angst comes from clinging to in a world that was, rather than progressing, rather than continuing and surrendering to the cycle. And so it's interesting because, using the metaphor of a butterfly, it's when the caterpillar feels like it's the end of the world that it becomes that butterfly. Now, in my book, Limitless, I have a quote from a French philosopher. And the French philosopher, he says, life is the C between B and D. Life is C between B and D. And you might be thinking I'm speaking in tongues. You might be thinking I'm speaking in code. B stands for birth. D stands for what? Stands for death. And C, life, stands for choice. You know, I believe difficult times can define us. Difficult times can diminish us, or these difficult times can actually develop us. We ultimately decide with the choices that we make, and your choices to be able to show up even right now, the way that you show up, that you play full out. And so let's talk about 6 choices that you can make right now to be able to level up your learning and level up your life. What are 6 ways? Because while the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth happens in the cocoon. Can we agree on that? While the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth happens in the cocoon. And when you're in different environments, and even the environment of just think about, for those of you who've been to Burning Man, before or many times. Think about when you're on the playa, you're in Black Rock City, and the elements are there. It's not ever about resources, right? We know it's about these internal resourcefulness. So how can we take the principles of Burning Man, radical inclusion, gifting, decommodification, self-reliance, self-expression, communal effort? I can actually teach you how to memorize these. Civil responsibility, leaving no trace, right? Participation, immediacy, which is, for me, it's like the core of Burning Man, right? This quality of bringing us into this direct and almost instant involvement with somebody or something, with ourself, these positive messages of closeness, or we decrease the psychological and mental and emotional distance between us. I believe even if people are physically distancing themselves, what's dangerous is if we mentally distance ourselves, or if we emotionally distance ourselves. So what can we be doing? All right, 6 things, 6 choices, going back to life is the C between B and D. B is birth, D is death, C is choice. 6 choices we can be making. And you'll see that all 6 of them live, in abundance in the playa. So the first, and in no specific order, I tend to alliterate everything. I use acronyms a lot to make them very memorable for you. So whether you're taking notes, you probably can remember them anyway. The first C is clarity. Clarity. I believe that clarity gives you massive amounts of strength, massive amounts of power, right? Personal power, meaning when you're on the playa, or you're in this multiverse, or you're sitting at home and you're physically distancing yourself, that's a wonderful time for self-reflection. Self-reflection, meaning that, and I'm gonna give you a number of questions you could ask yourself. I believe questions open up new possibilities. If we want to talk about becoming limitless, it's about limitless possibilities, right? One of the questions you could ask to get clarity on your life, sometimes we're going a million miles an hour, right? And I know people are watching this from all over the world, live and also recorded. Sometimes when you're going so fast, we don't check in with ourselves and saying, is this really important to me? Like, am I really, I have my to-do list, but what's my to-be list today? What's on my to-be list? Am I going in the right direction? Because sometimes you just used to doing something in the matrix over and over again, right? Or you're living in this default world, or you go back to the default world and you just go back to your old scripts. So check in with yourself. And one of the power questions I ask myself is, what's most important to me in life? What's most important to me in my being? What's most important to me in this moment? What's most important to me in my career? What's most important in my relationships? What's the most important to me in my impact, right? So that's a clarifying question that kind of sensitizes you to what you value most. I always tell people the most important thing is to keep the most important things the most important things. I'll say that again. The most important thing is to keep the most important things the most important things. All right. So first, get clarity on the most important things. What's most important to you in this? Right. You're for you particularly, not for somebody else. For me, it's love, it's growth, it's contribution, it's a sense of adventure. But what's it for you? And then secondly, I would say the second question to ask after you know what's important to you, as you're self-reflecting or you're meditating or you're journaling, right? Or you're taking a, you're taking a walk. Second question is, are my actions aligned with my values? Are my actions aligned with my values? Are my actions aligned with those things that I hold dear? I believe that if people complain, they feel burnt out, they feel tired, it's not because you're doing too much all the time. Some people say that they're burnt out or they're tired because they're doing too much. Often it's not because you're doing too much. Often you feel burnt out because you're doing too little of the things that make you come alive. You're doing too little of the things that give you energy, that make you come on fire, right? And we're talking about burning and fire. I mean, we get this life here, right? We get this one life. Why aren't we running towards our dreams like we're on fire, right? With that sense of urgency and that level of immediacy. So the first thing is clarity. What's most important to you? Second choice you can make while you are going through this experience of Burning Man, or you're going through your learning or going through your life, is care, right? We know that self-love and self-care is not selfish. Self-care and self-love is not selfish. And here's the thing, not just your physical hygiene, but also your mental hygiene. How are you taking care of yourself? And we could talk about that a little bit in the Q&A. For me, I like to engage the elements. Even where I live, I like to have, earth, I like to have air, I like to have water, I like to have fire, and I have these rituals to bring more of that into my life. And that's a big part of me coming alive. But remember this, especially in the times that we're going through, you have permission to rest. You are not responsible for fixing everything that is broken. You do not have to try and make everyone happy. Remember to take time for you, take time to replenish. And so I would say first thing is clarity, second thing is care. And then the third C is contribution. So we're talking about life is a C between B and D. B is birth, D is death, C is choice, right? So you have choices in your clarity, choices in your care, and it's everything from, we can talk about in the Q&A, eating the best brain foods, prioritizing your sleep, which doesn't happen a lot at Burning Man. In my experience, managing your stress, right? Being around your positive peers, all help you to be able to have care, and also self-care and self-love, right? Falling in love with that person in the mirror that has been through so much, but is still standing. Third C, after clarity and care, is contribution. And we know that this is a big part of the ethos of Burning Man, contribution. Because here's the thing, chronic stress actually shrinks our brain. Chronic fear actually suppresses our immune system. There's a whole area of science called psychoneuroimmunology that chronic fear will actually make you more susceptible to colds, to flus, to viruses, and all of that. And what's the antidote for fear? In my experience, it is contribution, right? When we're talking about the 10 principles of Burning Man, and especially what we're focused on in the multiverse and the mystic verse, radical contribution, radical collaboration, radical compassion, radical self-expression, radical evolution, right? Radical inclusion. A lot of that comes through contribution. So here's the question. Like for me, for example, when I put out our book, Limitless, I know many of you have read this because I sent this, invited you to join us for this session. We donated 100% of the proceeds to charity, to women's Alzheimer's research, to equality. We donated also to education, right? Even today, we donated to build to build a full school for children in need, girls and boys who have no access to education. It'll fund the school, it'll fund clean water, it'll fund healthcare. And so how can you contribute in a unique way? So contribution, because I believe the formula is you learn, So you can earn, but then you return. Learn, earn, and then you return. And so the magic question is, you have clarifying questions like, you know, what's most important to me in life? Are my actions aligned with those values? You have contribution questions. Here's one. How can I invest some of my time, my talent, or my treasure to make a difference? How can I invest some of my time, my talent, or my treasure to make a difference? It can be making food for frontline workers. It could be checking in on a neighbor that might be feeling a little bit alone, but how can you uniquely contribute? Because your uniqueness is your story, right? That is your superpower. So that's the third C: clarity, care, contribution. I would also say the fourth one is creativity. And I don't even have, this is this is the most creative of the world out there. I believe the future belongs to the creators. In a world where a lot of jobs are going to machines, they're going to automation, they're going to artificial intelligence. What's not going to be outsourced are things that are truly limitless. And the limitless sky is not the limit. Our minds are the limit, right? There's no limit to your imagination. There's no limit to your creativity. There's no limit to our ability to come together. There's no limit to our ability to solve problems. So creativity. Did you know it was during the Great Plague that Shakespeare created some of his masterpieces, like Macbeth, Antony and Cleopatra? It was during when they shut down London at the university there that Isaac Newton went home and he was sitting underneath a tree and an apple fell on his head and he created the theories of gravity, created the theories of motion, right? And I'm not saying we have to create at that level, but why not, right? And so what have you always wanted to create? What music have you always wanted to write? What stories are in your soul that you want to put onto paper? How can you create? Or what businesses or enterprises do you want to create? So that's the 4C, creativity. And you're in a perfect environment being here in the virtual playa, in this multiverse, in this mystic verse, to be able to be creative. And then finally, I'll give you 2 more C's. The 5th C is capability. Capability, meaning that what have you always wanted to learn, right? You have your to-do list, and we talked about having a to-be list, but what's on your to-learn list? What have you always want to learn? And it's amazing because we have unfettered access to everything right now, right? And YouTubes and podcasts. You want to learn salsa, you want to learn Spanish, you want to learn speed reading. We have podcasts and we have YouTube videos on how to be able to do that. And so what's on your to learn list? Because I believe we're all here talking about contribution and also creativity and capabilities. We're here to be able to be grow givers. Grow givers is a term I coined about 20 plus years ago, basically saying that, you know, when we feel most fulfilled is usually when we're growing, right? It's not like a go-getter. A go-getter is just getting, right? Or you're just giving, because then you become a martyr, but you grow so you have more to give, right? You grow so you have more to give, and everything in nature grows, and everything, or it dies, or everything nature gives, right, back into the systems, or it's eliminated. So be a grow giver. So that goes back to your capabilities. What have you always wanted to learn? And I believe if there's one skill to double down on, it's your ability to learn, your ability to learn how to learn. If there was a genie who could grant you, let's get really creative. Let's do a thought experiment. If there's a genie who could grant you any one wish, but only one wish, what would you wish for? Infinite wishes, right? Limitless wishes. But if I was your learning genie and I could help you master any one subject or any one skill, what would the equivalent be of asking for limitless wishes? It would be learning how to learn. Because what can you apply that to? If you can learn how to learn how to focus, learn how to study, learn how to read faster, learn how to remember things, learn how to be a creative thinker or divergent thinker, be able to solve problems. What could you apply that to? Everything. Money, Mandarin, music, martial arts, everything in your life gets easier because we're sharpening that saw, right? If you have a lot of wood to cut, you have a dull blade, you don't want to spend time stressing and struggling. You want to sharpen it and then cut through it like it's butter, right? So that's working smart. So that's capabilities. And then finally, the 6C I would share with you: after clarity, after care, after contribution, after creativity, capabilities, the 6th one is community, right? And that's this. And your community has a huge effect on your brain fitness, your brain health. If we're talking about mental models and upgrading our mental abilities, who we spend time with is who we become. And the reason why, from a neurological standpoint, is because you have these things called mirror neurons. mirror neurons, and your mirror neurons in your nervous system are always imitating what's around you. So what happens is you tend to adopt and adapt to your environment. You start to use language as the people you spend time with. You start to develop the same habits. So it's not just your neurological networks, it's your social networks. And so community now more than ever is so very important. And we all need people like this, like the people that's in this camp, right? People to encourage you, to challenge you, to cheerlead for you, to be able to educate you. And if you haven't found that person yet, my suggestion is be that person for someone else. Especially be that person for who? Be that person for you. All right, so it starts with community for yourself and then community with others, right? In multiple intelligence theory, they call it interpersonal intelligence, self to others, and then intrapersonal intelligence, self to self. And so that is the sixth one, which is community, all right? So now those are your 6 C's for while you're cocooning or while you're going through this experience at Burning Man, you adopt all of those because it's built into the culture. Now, what I'm going to share with you right now is I'd love for you to grab a piece of paper, and I want to share with you the Limitless model. The Limitless model, and it's a framework. This is all about mental models and getting smarter and learning faster. This is for when people see me on stages, they'll often see me do these demonstrations, right? And I've actually done this talk at Burning Man where I do well, I'll memorize 100 people's names, or an audience will give me 100 words or 100 numbers, and I'll memorize them forwards and backwards. And I always tell people, I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's truly possible, because the truth is you could do it too. You just were not taught. If anything, you were taught a lie. And in the book, I talk about a lie being a limited idea entertained. We have to get out of the matrix here, right? This is all about, let me get this out here. This is all about transcending, right? Ending the trance, transcend, ending the trance, ending this mass hypnosis that we are limited, that we are not smart enough, or we are not good enough. This mass hypnosis that's propagated through the media, through marketing, that you are broken, that you need to be fixed. The reason why I know this is possible is because I grew up with some pretty severe learning challenges. When I was 5 years old, I was in kindergarten class. I took a very bad fall, rushed to the hospital. I had this traumatic brain injury where it really showed up because my parents said I was not the same after that. Before I was very curious, very playful, very energized, I became very shut down. My superpower growing up was becoming invisible, was really shrinking because I had these learning difficulties that came from this accident. I had very poor focus. I had a horrible memory. Teachers would repeat themselves over and over and over again. I would pretend to understand, but I didn't really understand. And I remember it took me an extra 3 years just to learn how to read. I remember when at 9 years old, another incident where I was being teased, bullied in class because I wasn't keeping up and I was slowing the class down. A teacher came to my defense, but all I remember her saying was, "That's the boy with the broken brain. That's the boy with the broken brain." And that label became my limitation, right? It put me in that box. And I don't know if you could relate to this, but your inner talk, your identity, that this idea that your perception of yourself, every single time I did badly on a test, which was very often, every time I wasn't picked for sports, which was like all the time, I would always say, oh, because I have the broken brain. That was me. So my superpower became shrinking. And again, and I talk about superpowers because I learned how to read by reading comic books late at night. When my parents thought I was sleeping, I'd be underneath the covers reading this comic book with my flashlight, and something about the hero's journey, right? Joseph, how many of you are fans of Joseph Campbell's work? Or, something about, for me, a superhero went in and they represented hope and they represented real help. Somebody who's discovered, but not only discovered their superpowers, they developed them. But just having a superpower, does that make you a superhero? No. You have to use it for what? For contribution, right? So you're doing this radical contribution and you want to be able to impact and be able to influence and be able to inspire others. And so for me, I've always had that goal, but I struggled all through school. And it wasn't until I was about 18 years old where I uncovered, this new research that allowed me to upgrade my brain, learn anything faster, but really unlock the life I wanted to be able to live. All right. So let's go into this framework. I want you to draw, and then we'll answer questions. I want you to draw 3 intersecting circles. So we'll do it like this. I want you to hydrate. 3 intersecting circles. So it looks something like this. They call it a Venn diagram, for those of you familiar with it, Venn diagram. And this is the mental model. I call it the limitless model to learning anything faster and unlocking your exceptional life, doing the impossible. And this applies to an individual. This applies to a family. This applies to a community, a nation, a world. Okay. I want you to think about one area of your life where you feel held back. Limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about progressing and advancing beyond what you believe is possible. Again, as an individual or as a planet, all right? I want you to think about one area where you feel like there's not this advancement in your own life, all right? Where you're not progressing, where you feel like you're in a box. Now think about this box. This box is three-dimensional, right? A cube is three-dimensional by definition. And the three forces that keep you in that box, maybe it could be in a relationship. Maybe it could be in your career. Maybe it could be in your level of impact. Maybe it could be in your income, whatever it is, your creativity, in your reading speed, in your intelligence, right? You feel like you're in a box and you're not making progress. The three forces that keep you in that box, here's the good news, are the same three forces that will liberate you out of the box. And they're represented by these three circles. All right. I'm going to give you three M's. Three M's for becoming limitless. Now, the last M, the bottom circle there, are the methods. And I'm happy to go through that in the Q&A. Many of you listen to my podcast, which are podcasts, by the way, just search my name on your podcast app. All podcasts are free, right? Mine, no advertising, no sponsorships, right? We want to democratize. We want to open source this information because I realized early on that school teaches you what to learn. They teach you what to study. They teach you what to focus on. They teach you what to remember. They teach you what to read. They teach you what to think, but they don't teach you how to do those things. Where are the classes on how to learn, how to study, how to focus, concentrate, how to be creative, how to solve problems, right? How to read faster, how to be able to remember things. I always thought it should have been the fourth R in school. They teach you 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. Spelling obviously is not one of them, but what about remembering? What about retention? What about recall, right? Socrates said, learning is remembering. And so this book, when I first wrote it, was all about methods. And it's important to have methods. Methods for building a business. Methods for being a great parent. Methods for being healthy, right? Everybody has different methods: a specific diet, a specific exercise routine, a specific way of investing. For me, I have very specific methods for reading faster with better comprehension. I have very specific methods for remembering people's names or learning a language, right? So you need the methods. But when I was going to turn in this book and email it to my publisher, I asked myself this question. I said, will 100% of the people who read this book get the results they're hoping for? And my honest answer was no. And I just got goosebumps because I call them truth bumps, because so many people know what to do, but they're not doing the things that they know, because common sense is not common practice. Do you know you should be doing something, but you're not doing it? You know, like a habit or a routine, or you should meditate, or you should maybe move or exercise, or you should do something, right? But common sense is not always common practice, because you need 2 circles before that, 2 other M's. I'm going to give them to you really quickly and then jump into the micro questions. Number 1, the first circle is your mindset. A mindset. Now, I'm defining your mindset as a set of assumptions and attitudes about something. Your attitudes, assumptions about what's possible. Your attitudes, assumptions about what you believe you're capable of. Now, those are 2 different things. You could believe it's possible for somebody, but you might not believe you're capable of it, right? Or your mindset is what you believe you deserve. Write this down. I am a thermostat, not a thermometer. I am a thermostat, not a thermometer. What does the thermometer do? Thermometer just reacts to the environment, right? Whatever, it reacts to the weather, reacts to the economy, reacts to politics, reacts to how people treat them. And every so often we step into that, maybe we react, right? But who has agency in reality in terms of what things mean, how things, the behaviors you take, about what you're going to focus on? You do, right? Because you're a thermostat. A thermostat doesn't react to the environment, does it? What does it do? It gauges the environment intelligently, but it sets a temperature, and then what happens to the environment? it reacts to it. And so what is the temperature you're setting, that vision, that dream, right? Those goals that you have inside your mind, inside your heart, that you take the invisible and make it visible, right? So going back to your mindset, what's possible, what you believe is possible, what you believe you're capable of, what you believe you deserve. And in order to do that, you have to, what I call unlimit. I create a process called unlimiting, which is the active removal of limits. Sometimes it's not about doing more. Sometimes it's about doing less of the things that get in the way. And so that's one of the things that I realized, that it's not what's on your to-do list as much as it is what's on your not to-do list. What are your non-negotiables, the things you just won't do? But going back to your mindset, I created these I talk about these lies, right? These limited ideas that you're entertaining. Because I could give you a method on how to remember names, but if your mindset is, oh, I'm not smart enough. Your mindset is, I have a horrible memory. I'm just too old, or whatever it is, you're still going to be stuck in that box, right? So you have to unlimit that. The second M, so the first M is mindset. The last M are the methods. The second M for anything, not just learning anything faster, but for advancing and progressing in any area of your life, you can have the mindset about how you deserve this relationship, or you deserve this wealth, or you deserve this health, or you deserve this reading speed, or whatever, right? You can have the methods, but you need the second M too. The second M is your motivation. And when I say the word motivation, I'm the first to agree, it's like a loaded word. Some people think motivation is getting real pumped up, and then they're all hyped up, and then all of a sudden the next day, nothing happens, right? Because you have this, you're like, oh, I'm gonna change this and change this, New Year's resolutions or new goals. It's a new month. I'm gonna tackle on all these new things, and nothing happens the next day. Motivation. Here's the formula for sustained motivation. Now, by the way, how many of you have seen the movie Limitless, or the television show Limitless? The movie with Bradley Cooper, Robert De Niro. He goes from like 0 to hero by taking this pill, right? All of a sudden he takes this pill, he can learn languages, he has this eidetic memory, he's able to focus, concentrate, he gets physically fit, and he's a surge of motivation. But what happens 24 hours later? It just disappears, right? It just disappears in the ether. You don't want that. The goal, here's the goal: sustainable motivation. Now, what's the proof someone's motivated? It's not what you say. It's not even how you feel. It's whether you consistently what? Act, right? You only know if your friends are motivated if they're doing those things, right? I read somewhere recently that integrity is measured by the distance between your lips and your life. Integrity is measured by the distance between your lips and your life, right? So a lot of people might want these things, but they are just these expressed interests. We're not really committing, because this key to sustained motivation is this. Here's the magic formula. Ready? The limitless formula for sustained motivation, for consistently acting and doing the things you need to do. P times E times S3. P times E times S3. Now, what does this mean? Here we go. Let's do this thought experiment, and I'm going to ask to answer questions. Thought experiment. We're going to build the ultimate motivated human being. All right, let's say it's to exercise, something just like we're all in different, industries and everything else like that. Let's say it's just to move. When your body moves, your brain grooves. When you move, you create brain-derived neurotropic factors, BDNF, which is like fertilizer for neuroplasticity, for creating new connections between your neurons, right? Now, if you're not exercising each day, here's what's missing: P, E, or S3. What's P? P stands for purpose. And now, what is purpose? I'm not talking about your life purpose, although I write a lot about that in my book, Limitless, and in our podcast. I'm talking about having a reason. Write this down. Reasons reap rewards. Reasons reap results, right? By having a reason. I'm going to mention a number of books, because many people know for 4 years I read a book a day. We teach our speed readers to read 1 book a week, 52 books a year. My goal with Limitless is to make the most read book. Maybe it's not the most bought book, but it's definitely one of the most read, finished books, completed books, because I want you to read. I want you to learn how to read better. Most people don't read because they're not good at it, because maybe most people don't learn as much because it's difficult, right? It's boring, it's tedious. And so how can you get better at it? With competence comes confidence. In psychology, they call it the competence-confidence loop. The more competent you get at something, the more confident you are, which means you're going to practice it more. And then the more competent you'll be, and the more confident it just gets more and more, right? But going back to learning and reading, purpose for me is a feeling. So the book I would recommend is a book like Start With Why by our friend Simon Sinek. Start with why. I believe there's a success formula, 3 H's: head, heart, hands. 3 H's: head, heart, hands. So you could visualize in your head, what you want your art to be. You could visualize in your head this installation, this book, this business, but if you're not acting with your hands, or you visualize the relationship, you can visualize, your body, you're not acting with your hands, check in with the second H, which is your heart, right? What does the heart symbolize? Emotions, feelings. Because here's the thing, we are not logical, we are biological. You think about all the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, and all these endorphins. We are like this feeling chemical soup. And so feel it. The purpose is a feeling. What are the rewards you'll get from following through? And the discomfort could also be very motivating. Who's counting on you? Who's depending on you to be able to show up today? Who are you going to disappoint? What if you don't follow through? What if I was to say 5 years are going to go by and nothing changes? How would that make you feel, right? So feel the purpose. Now, if somebody just has big enough purpose, will they always follow through? Will they always exercise? Will they always read each day? Will they always meditate? Will they always sing? Whatever they need to consistently do? The answer is no, because they can be missing the E. P times E times S3. The E stands for what? Energy. Energy. Because somebody could have the purpose of, let's say, exercising each day, but let's say they haven't slept in 3 nights. And this pretty much describes my playa experience. You haven't slept in 3 nights, you're not going to be very motivated to follow through, even if you have big enough purpose, because you're going to lack energy. So that's why I talk about 10 keys for mental vitality to get rid of brain fatigue, right? The best brain diet, how to optimize your sleep, how to reduce stress, which consumes a lot of energy, right? All the different things, supplements that you could take to increase your energy levels, energy. Right? You could say that, okay, I want to be motivated to read every single day. I heard, Jim say leaders are readers. And how do you do it? How do you do it? But let's say you ate a big processed meal and you ate all this junk food, which I actually think there's no such thing as junk food. There's junk and there's food, but maybe you ate a big processed meal and you're in a food coma, right? And you're not motivated to read that day, right? By the way, to get through 1 book a week, the average reader, I'm not even talking about a speed reader, the average book has 64,000 words. The average person reads 200 words per minute. Divide the numbers together. That means it takes 320 minutes to read 1 book. Wow, isn't that amazing? And the reason why I talk about reading so much is that somebody has decades of experience, right? And they put it into a book, any book. And you could sit down and read that book in a few days. You could download decades into days. That's such a huge advantage to be able to get the world's wisdom from a book, right? And you could get if you're doing 52 books a year, you get a PhD and a master's in any subject by doing so. Leaders are readers. By the way, 320 minutes to get through 1 book. How do you do it in a week? Divided by 7. 7 days in a week. That means 45 minutes a day. 45 minutes a day will get you through 1 book a week. Now, if you triple your reading speed, like you follow the directions in our podcast and our program, whatever, you learn how to read faster, you can do it in 15 minutes. Right? 15 minutes a day to be able to read that. But if you're not doing it, maybe you lack the energy. Finally, the S3, P stands for purpose, E stands for energy. Is there a time when this person won't follow through and be motivated? My answer is yes. And you might be missing S3. S3, small, simple steps. A lot of people do not advance. They lack motivation because this thing they're thinking about is too big. I want to marry my soulmate, live happily ever after. Way too big. I want to start the next, big business, or I want to get 1 million followers, or I want to have this perfect physique, whatever it is. Too big. Small, simple steps. So maybe it's not working out every day. That's too big. Maybe it's small, simple step, putting on your running shoes. Maybe it's not reading 45 minutes a day. Maybe it's just picking up the book and opening it, right? Or reading 1 line. That's a small, simple step. How do you find your small, simple step? S3, simple question. Questions are the answer. Ask yourself this question. What is the tiniest action I could take right now that will give me progress towards this goal? What is the tiniest action I could take right now that will give me progress towards this goal. So tiny, I can't even fail at it, right? So small, simple steps. So what's the formula? P times E times S3 for limitless motivation. P, feel the purpose, both pain and the discomfort of not following through. The E, optimize your energy, because you don't have energy, you create energy. Right? You don't have focus, you do focus. You don't have creativity, you do creativity. Those are all the methods. And finally, if you're still stalled, stuck in that box, check your steps, break it down, because inch by inch, it's a cinch, yard by yard, it's too hard. Inch by inch, it's a cinch, yard by yard, it's too hard. Now, as I wrap up this model, in a few minutes, I'm going to go into Q&A, and we can go into the methods. The last M are your methods. So you have mindset, you have motivation, and you have the methods: mindset, motivation, and methods. Now, by the way, you see the overlap? I give you three M's. I'm going to give you three I's. Three I's. So where mindset and motivation cross over, you have inspiration. And there are great books on mindset. Great book I would recommend by Dr. Carol Dweck called Mindset. There are great books on motivation. Motivation Manifesto by Brendan Burchard. There are great motivational speakers, mindset experts. Where they cross over, you have inspiration. And you have inspirational speakers, inspirational stories, inspirational movies. And what does an inspirational movie do for you? It changes what's possible in your mind and gives you some energy, right? Some motivation, right? Mindset and motivation. But you're inspired, but you lack the what? The methods. You don't know what to do, the instructions. Where mindset crosses over with methods, you have the second I, which is ideation. Mindset is, I believe it's possible. I believe I'm capable of it. Methods, I know how to invest. I know how to start that business. I know how to read 3 times faster. I know how to remember names. But it stays an idea, ideation, because you lack the what? The motivation. And finally, the third I, where motivation crosses over with methods, you have the third I, which is the third I. You have integration. You have implementation. Implementation. You're motivated, you have purpose, you have energy, you know the methods of how to do these things, but you could still be stuck in that box because of your limitations in your mindset, of what you believe is possible, what you believe you deserve, what you believe you are capable of. Now, here's the model. The fourth I I'll give you right now. The fourth I is this one. The fourth I, okay. It's not, okay. The fourth I, I'm going to give you this right in the middle, which is integration. Integration. I was going to show you on a share screen, but here, and then I'm going to do questions. So integration is this. Right in the middle, you see the limitless state where all three M's or all three I's come together. That's integration. Integration, like integer or integral, it means you're whole, like a whole number. And it's just who you are. That's the integrated state. That's a limitless state. Now, becomes a mental model or a framework. Think about it like a lens for you to look at your learning or look at your life and say, oh, that's why I'm stuck in that box. Because you could say, is it my mindset? Do I not believe it's possible? Do I not believe I'm capable of it? Do I not believe I deserve it? Because that'll keep you stuck. Or is it my motivation? Do I not feel purpose? Am I just too tired and not have enough energy? So how can I optimize that? Or how do I break it down into small, simple steps? Or am I just using old methods for entrepreneurship, old methods for health, or old methods of dieting, or old methods of dating, or old methods of commerce, or old methods of, and then, by the way, this could be an individual, or old methods of reading, right? Or old methods of studying or focusing. This could be an individual, but you could also apply this towards your friends, your teammates. You can also apply this towards society, right? If you look at society through this lens, and let's say you want to create social equality, right? And there's a mindset that keeps people locked. What they believe is possible, what they believe people deserve, what they believe is fair. There's motivation. Some people, in order for them to act, they need to feel purpose, right? Or they need to have energy. And energy could come in the form of physical energy. It could also come in the form of resources, right? Like capital or connections, right? Or maybe some people they're almost on the brink of being motivated, but they don't have small, simple steps of what to do, right? Or they're using old methods. It's an archaic way of education, or an archaic way of politics. It's an archaic way of commerce or economics, right? So the idea here is this is the biggest challenge I see in people and what they're doing right now. Do not downgrade your vision and your dreams individually or collectively as a camp to meet this current situation. Do not downgrade your dreams to meet this current situation. Instead, upgrade your mindset, your motivation, and the methods to be able to live those dreams, to be able to realize your destiny, if you will. So my friends, that is the Limitless model for accelerated learning. You could just use this as a framework or a mental model to see where you feel stuck, where you're not advancing and progressing into the areas you feel possible. And we have a little time to do some rapid Q&A on anything that you want to go deeper in.
Fabulous. Jim, that was just amazing. I couldn't write notes fast enough to get all that down. I'm looking forward to watching the recording. There's just so much there. I wanted to ask you, what has been your most transformative experience at Burning Man? Burning Man's kind of like drinking through a fire hose, right? There's 30,000 cool workshops happening every hour, and there's a million cool people there, and there's all these great experiences. What's been your most transformative experience at Burning Man?
It's funny because I don't subscribe to FOMO. I know a lot of people when they're on the playa, they like want to do all of these different things, right? And they want to visit all of their friends. For me, it's always been the reminder of synchronicity and serendipity. I always feel like the playa has always been my teacher, much like when I take ice baths, and many of you know Wim Hof, that cold could be your teacher also as well. But being out in that environment, I found that I've attracted the answers that I've wanted, that I didn't maybe even know was in my mind. But if you're open to it, you get to see more of it. I believe coming from a beginner's mind, even if this is your first time or it's your 17th time, be able to have an open mind and open heart. It's kind of cheesy, but it's true that your mind, like your spirit, is like a parachute. It only works when it's opened. And so for me, it's a reminder of the serendipity, the synchronicities. I call them hypersynchronicities that occur, when you're there, and being open to those things, and having this Zen beginner's mind is so important. Not having this attachment. It's a reminder of surrender, especially surrendering to the environment, the heat or the sand or the wind, or if something doesn't work out in your favor, maybe it really is in your favor. And then you look back knowing that you're glad it didn't work out the way you thought it would, and something better was there. So the openness and the surrendering is a big lesson for me.
Yeah, the hyper serendipity or the playa magic it's really palatable there. It's really tremendous. Can you? I'd love to hear what was one of those serendipitous moments where you wanted to do something and something better happened, or you lost something and someone gives it to you at random, or whatever that playa magic was for you.
I remember going out. It was late. It was early in the evening, just like about 1 a.m. And I was looking for this one very specific person that we're supposed to meet up and have that agenda to be able to meet up. And I would go to camp, and I would just miss this person. And then just riding my bike out there, I came across the person I was meant to meet. And it was a very, very special moment. It was a very special meaning for me, and it created this whole ripple effect. And but I had to be open to it, because this is when I finally surrendered that allowed space for that magic to happen. And that's a big part of what we're talking about here, is that when we're here, when we're talking about radical contribution, or we're talking about collaboration, and realizing all these amazing things, is the ultimate adventure that we're on together, is to create this life, right? And talk about burning again, like you are your greatest project that you will ever get to work on. So be open and take the time and make the time to create magic.
Fabulous. David had a question. What are the key mindset blocks, and how do you change them? How do you make an actual change in habit or direction? And how do you speak to the inner self about belief and reason in a strong language?
Okay, so let's unpack that. It's good to see you, David, here on video. What are the key mindset blocks, and how do you change them? I'll give you a few of these lies. These are 7 lies to learning and to your life that keeps us stuck. For me, I believe they're all BS. And when I say BS, I mean belief systems. It's not true that you're not smart enough or that you're not good enough. One of the common lies out there is that intelligence is fixed. And if you believe that lie, then what's the point in doing anything after that, right? If you think you take an IQ test and what you take when you're 7 is the same as when you're 17 and same as you're 77, then adopting this growth mindset makes a difference. Another lie that I believe people buy into in mass is genius is born. People are just born a great athlete. They're just born a great musician. They're just born a financial genius. They're born being great at relationships. And that, I believe that's a lie. I believe genius leaves clues, and that genius is not born. Genius is actually built. I'll give you a reading. I don't do these live readings very, very often. Hold on one second so I can grab a new copy of this book. So here's the thing. Here's an idea. And now one of the ways we change things is through the stories that we tell ourselves. And so here I help dissolve lies, and part of the lies here are what we believe is possible, and working through these limiting ideas that we entertain. When I say, and we can talk about this in the Q&A also, how to read this or any other book. So we'll go through this. But as I'm going through looking for this reading, how do you speak to your inner self about these beliefs? Your brain is like a supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself you're not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to. Your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. And the reason I'm so passionate about this is we've learned more about the human brain more in the past 10 years than the previous 1,000 years combined. And what we found is we're grossly underestimating our own capabilities. And here's an example of that. So a mindset block could be like, oh, that's just reserved for a certain people, right? Or they're just born with that. And here's a story to the contrary, that genius is not necessarily born, that it's actually built. This is interesting. I haven't done it for live reading in quite a while. This is what I wanted to do. Because COVID, it canceled my book tour and 30 different events that I was speaking at, including South by Southwest by and all these different places. All right. A king was watching a great magician perform his act. The crowd was enthralled, and so was the king. At the end, the audience roared with approval. The king said, "What a gift this man has, a God-given talent." But a wise counselor said to the king, "My lord, genius is born. No, genius is built, not born. This magician's skill is the result of discipline and practice. These talents have been learned and honed over time with determination and discipline." The king was troubled by this message. The counselor's challenge had spoiled his pleasure in the magician's arts. "Limited and spiteful man, how dare you criticize a true genius? As I said, you either have it or you don't, and you most certainly don't." The king turned to his bodyguard and said, "Throw this man into the deepest dungeon." And he added, for the counselor's benefit, "So you won't be lonely. You could have 2 of your kind to keep you company. You shall have 2 piglets as cellmates." From the very first day of his imprisonment, the wise counselor practiced running up the steps of his cell to the prison door, carrying in each hand a piglet. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the piglets steadily grew into sturdy boars. And with every day of practice, the wise counselor increased his power and strength. One day, the king remembered the wise counselor and was curious to see how imprisonment had humbled him. He had the wise counselor summoned. When the prisoner appeared, he was a man of powerful physique, carrying a boar on each arm. The king exclaimed, "What a gift this man has, a God-given talent." The wise counselor replied, "My lord, genius is built, not born. My skill is the result of discipline and practice. These talents have been learned and honed over time with determination and discipline." So I would just remind you, David, and everybody else who's joining us, that when we talk about mindset, the reason we talk about mindset first is these mindset blocks, these lies, limited ideas entertained, they get in our way because our mind is always eavesdropping on our self-talk. One of the ways of changing that, first, self-awareness goes a long way. My buddy Wyatt, oh my goodness, it's been like 10 years. Here's what happens. If your mindset is this, for this amount of time, then if you say things like, I don't have a great memory, just add a little. So first, be self-aware. Self-awareness is a superpower. Second, when you're auditing your self-talk, realize that language has meaning on the human nervous system. When you say, I don't have a great memory, you could add a word like yet, and it opens up a possibility. Something like somebody just this morning, somebody's like, oh, I gotta pick up my kids, I gotta exercise, I gotta whatever. What if you change the word got to get, right? I get to pick up my kids. I get to work out today. I get to do these things. Change your language, you could change your life, especially when it comes to your self-talk, because your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. As I said, if your brain is like this supercomputer, and your self-talk is a program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, you won't remember the name of the next person you meet, because you program your supercomputer not to.
Jim, can I get a book of quotes from Jim Kwik? Turn got into get. Self-awareness is a superpower. Like, I've been trying to scribble these down, and it's just amazing. Like, seriously, can we get some like a book of pithy quotes?
Yeah. A lot of quick ideas that ideas here, and these are ideas that have been around for ages, as we talked about.
I love how you've crafted them in great language. It's terrific. Since it's Burning Man, I wanted to ask you, what's your opinion on psychedelics and the use of psychedelics for problem solving, creativity, and or enjoying Mozart?
And enjoying Mozart. Wow, this is because this topic usually comes up a lot on our podcast. Also while I'm on stage. I'm not an expert, even though some people would see that brain and they look at it after watching us on video, it looks like a mushroom. I believe to each its own. The research has been pretty powerful that's out there. People could, I'm sure some of your experts could talk about this when it comes to trauma in the brain, to be able to rewire our nervous system so it could be more open. I think people have to remember I opened with a conversation that life is the C between B and D. B is birth, D is death, C is choice. I think people need to make intelligent choices for themselves, tap into their own wisdom. I have known on my Instagram to have these kind of wild experiences, like whether it's skydiving or swimming with the sharks or living in the Amazon rainforest for weeks at a time, coming across an indigenous tribe, being their very first Western contact. I believe that whether it's meditation or the works that we do in these other areas, you can use tools, and a tool could be a headband that helps you to meditate better. The tool could be a substance to be able to give you a reference experience, to be able to experience something to help facilitate that. And I also do believe in the human mind, that we could replicate and even enhance and do things with our own agency. And I know that is artfully vague. So we'll leave it at that, though.
Now, where should someone start? So there's so much in accelerated learning, speed reading, memory. Someone could say, well, I want to build a memory palace, or I want to memorize a deck of cards and create a memory palace of a deck of cards, or I want to maximize my reading speed, or I want to learn languages first. There's so much to learn, and it can be very, very overwhelming, even for someone who tries to take it in slowly. Where would you say is the cornerstone, the foundation to start? Is it reading speed? Is it removing the blocks from the brain so you believe that you can learn more? Where would someone start if they're just getting into this for maximum development?
Yeah, so for me, when I introduced the Limitless model, it was mindset, motivation, and methods. You could go to the methods and you could still be stuck in that box. And if you want to be able to liberate yourself out of that box, people could learn the methods for speed reading, learning languages, remembering names, but their mindset is, I'm not smart enough, I'm too old, I have a horrible memory. That becomes self-fulfilling, still keep you in that box, right? Or if you don't address the second M, which is motivation, you could have the mindset that anything is possible, that you deserve it, that you're capable of it, and have the new methodologies for entrepreneurship or investing or health or any other area, relationship, speed reading, anything. But if you lack the motivation, purpose, energy, right, the habits and the flow, you're not going to get there. For me, if we're going to go into methods, I always like reading, because I think leaders are readers. Reading is to your mind what exercises your body. If someone like Wyatt or somebody else has decades of experience, they put into a book, and you can sit down and read that book in a few days. You download decades in the days, which can change your mindset and your level of motivation. But going to what we're talking about, I would start somewhere, start anywhere. Your brain, let's say let's use the metaphor. It's not, obviously, it's not perfect like any metaphors. If this is the hardware, the software are the processes for running this, for reading faster, learning languages, to be able to focus, concentrate, and so on. That you don't have these things are things that you do. But going to the hardware, simple things you can do, small, simple steps, right? Inch by inch, it's a cinch, yard by yard, too hard. good brain diet, optimizing your sleep, right? Being around positive peer group, taking supplementation, managing your stress, continuous learning, scheduling your learning every single day, protecting, wear a helmet when you're out on the playa so you don't fall and have I've had 3 traumatic brain injuries, taking care of this hardware also as well, reducing negative self-talk. So I would say the answer for me is individual. For anybody else, I would say whatever you're going to do something, right? Because there's something called the Zeigarnik effect. The Zeigarnik effect, I'll end with this. It was a psychologist who was in Europe and noticed that the waitstaff would remember everyone's order until they were delivered. Her last name was Zeigarnik, right? And it's also a memory principle, meaning that the brain doesn't like open loops. That if you ever binge watch something and kept on going to the next, Hollywood is incredibly aware of the Zeigarnik effect. They keep these open loops to make you tune in. And so the idea here is if you start somewhere, one of the ways of overcoming procrastination, if you start somewhere or anywhere, start small, then you're more likely to follow through. And so I would say whatever you feel called to do, what you don't want to do is do nothing. Because so imagine this, that 5 years goes by and nothing happens, no growth happens. How would that make you feel? And so my biggest suggestion would be knowledge. Another lie, going back to David's question, another mindset block is knowledge is power. It's total BS. They're total belief systems. Knowledge is potential power at best. It only becomes power when you use it. All the experiences you have in your life, even right now, going through Burning Man, all the books, all the podcasts, all the coaching programs, none of it works unless you work. And we have to work it ourselves. So start somewhere, start anywhere. Applied knowledge becomes power.
So just get started. Thank you so much. The last time I heard the Zeigarnik effect was with Wyatt. Wyatt shared that in his accelerated learning program with Evan. Jim, before you sign off, I wanted to share, you showed Venn diagram. I wanted to show you this great Venn diagram of Burning Man. So we got naked old people, almost unlivable environment, unrestricted drug use, and then the intersection of all of these is Burning Man.
And in the area of gifting, because we know gifting is a big part of this. And you mentioned that if people, just the podcast, it's free. There's no advertising. There's no sponsors or anything else. If you just search my name, and I would encourage people just to continue. If anything I said resonated with you, you go to kwikbrain.com and you get 3 bonus gifts and literally on how to remember names, how to read faster and do these things. And they're my gift to everyone in the community. And just make sure you spell it right, KWIK. Or
kwikbrain.com for the free gifts. Thank you so much, Jim. This was fabulous. I can't wait to listen to this again and take even more detailed notes. This was just wonderful. Thank you so much. We got Wyatt coming up next. And then later in the week, we got Paul Stamets too. He's going to be talking about using mushrooms to optimize the brain. So he'll be a fun talk as well. And I hope to see you in the virtual dust in one of the different universes, Jim.
Certainly will. Take care, everybody. Talk soon.
Thank you so much.